You are tuned in to Making a Difference with Melissa Billy Clark. This show shares compelling stories and experiences of well-known faces and everyday people who change the world in big and small ways. Get ready to open your mind and your heart with Melissa Billy Clark.
Happy New Year and cheers to new beginnings. 2022 will bring our show to its second year, and we are honored to provide content that may help your life. We start our year with former model and TV personality Eric Nies, who shares his life experiences in the spotlight and how he turned that life into a light that will forever guide him.
I've come to understand in my life that we live on a planet and there are 4 elements that offers life to us. That's air, fire, water, and earth. These 4 elements are unconditionally, constantly giving themselves. And so I've come to realize and understand that if I want to feel whole, if I want to feel that my life is filled with purpose and meaning, and it feels honorable, then I know that I must give of myself just like the elements do, because that's what I am. When I was in my teens and up until around my mid-20s, what defined me was my physical attributes.
I've been modeling for about a year now in New York, and just recently started to get into commercials and acting and stuff.
That's what it was all about for me. That's how I got my work. I became a model, my workout videos. People wanted to see my face and they wanted to see my body, and I did everything that I could to make it all look pretty and nice for the viewer. But I was obviously driven by ego.
I was enjoying my life. I had great friends. I was in New York City, modeling, commercials, in the club scene, rollerblading, skating, surfing in the summers. But fame brought this whole new element to it that is not so easy to navigate.
Eric, aloha. Happy New Year, and thank you so much for joining us today from Hawaii.
Aloha. That's the first time I've ever heard that, and I like it. Aloha to you too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited over this. I'm a little nervous because you're a wonderful educator and just so happy to have you here. So in the beginning, I showed some of your video from your website, IamEricNies.com, and it's a great story about your journey and how you turned your life around. You talk about the time where you said that you were taken advantage of, manipulated, and robbed. Tell us about that moment, how you felt, and how you made a change.
Oh boy, that was one of the most devastating times in my life. Definitely life-altering, life-changing. But I was at the height of my career. I would think I was probably 22 or 23 years old. And this manager came into my life who was talking a big game and introduced me to a lot of very famous people. It was early for me in the industry. So I was definitely green. That's a term that they use in the business for people that don't have a lot of experience. But I was definitely very naive, very stubborn, and had a lot of, excuse me, a lot of ego working with me. But this manager came into my life and for a few months was courting me, wanting to work with me. And then eventually I chose to do that. What I didn't know was that he had other motives to get to me personally and sexually. And through working with him over time, he told this really wonderful story about how he was not healthy and that he was eventually going to die, but that he had all of this information to share with me. And this was the very first time that I heard anything about the New World Order or the Illuminati or, you know, satanic rituals and all of these very, very dark things. And it was like he did his homework and he knew exactly what buttons to push with me. But what's even more fascinating about it is that there was one thing that he did say that lasted until today, and it's still with me today in a very positive way. But at one time he said to me, you know, I need to share all of this information with you for your future because you're this chosen one. And I just thought it was all a bunch of, you know, BS at the time. And I didn't know what he was talking about. All I know is that I spent like 3 months with a pen and a piece of paper and a whole bunch of books in the Library of New York, like studying the bloodlines of the families that run and operate our tiny little blue, beautiful, loving planet. And that took me down a very dark rabbit hole for the very first time in my life at 22 years old. It was very confusing, extremely emotional and traumatic. And over time, he brainwashed me and manipulated me and ultimately would molest me. And throughout all of that, I lost my career with MTV. He stole $350,000 from me. I had a deal with Universal Studios at the time for my own talk show. So my career was flying high, and then this guy came into my life and just destroyed it all. But what's cool about all of it, what I would find out like 15 years later or 20 years later in the jungles of Peru, that if he didn't come into my life at that time, I would be dead, because I was on a very self-destructive path with using drugs because of the traumas in my childhood. Right. And the suppressed emotions that I was carrying around within me from those traumas in my life. And so I believe he was sent from angels to shake me up and, you know, to stop me from that path that I was on. And what's even more interesting is when I would meet my grandmaster when I was about 25 years old, I didn't say anything to my grandmaster about this gentleman. And one day he just said to me, he goes, you remember that man who you let do that to you? And I was like, what man? He goes, you know who I'm talking about. And I was so surprised. And he said, he a good man. And obviously at the moment I was angry, like really angry that he would say that, because I thought that was the worst thing that had ever happened to me in my life. And I would find out later on that it was my greatest blessing.
Eric helps people find their way, and he found his way. So I want to tap into this gentleman who hurt you. I know that you're very different now and you live a different lifestyle. So how did you feel at that moment when that happened to you?
Oh my God, I was ready to kill myself. That drove me to potential suicide. I was standing on the side of the Hudson River. The apartment that I had was in Weehawken, which was right on the river, and it looked directly at the Viacom building where MTV is. And I had a knife on my wrist. I carved into the tree, set me free. I was so confused and so lost. My friends were walking away from me. I lost my career. You know, I was the host of The Grind at the time. We had like 90 million viewers on The Grind. It was the second biggest TV show in the world next to Baywatch. It was absolutely devastating. But in that moment of complete and total disbelief and pain and suffering and confusion, in that moment when I had that knife on my wrist, this little cloud, it was a perfect clear sky, and it was in the summer, and this little cloud came down the Hudson River. And in that moment, that cloud like caught my eye. And this was the first time that I ever heard spirit that I can remember. You know, I'm sure when I was a child, I was communicating with spirit all the time. But as an adult, I heard this voice say, just go home. Just go home. And it startled me for a second. And it was like I went into a trance, because my friends were in the apartment with him when everything kind of blew up, and I lost it. I was like punching through the doors in my apartment and just like going crazy. And that little voice said, just go home. And that's what I did. In a trance, I kind of like went back to the apartment. I packed up my things. I called for a car, and the car took me home. And for the next 2 weeks, my family couldn't even talk to me. They couldn't touch me. I didn't want anybody to hold me, hug me, or anything. And I cried for probably 2 weeks. And in that time, I visited the local church and the school that I had gone to. I bought this statue at that time, which I still have, which was Mother Mary holding the little baby. And I did a Reiki session for the first time. And in that Reiki session, the Reiki practitioner, she said, the spirit of Mother Mary's in the room. This was after I had gone. So the school that I went to when I was a child was St. Mary's Elementary School, Catholic school. And the church that I went to was St. Mary's. So I went to St. Mary's, I prayed to Mary, and in the Reiki session, and this woman didn't know that. So in the session, the woman said, wow, Mother Mary is here. She's a guide of mine. And she's directing me to give you my crystal, my own personal crystal.
Wow.
And she wants you to know that she is always with you. She will always be with you for the rest of your life. So take that crystal. And then after that moment, I realized that, you know, I needed to get away. And so I went to Colorado by myself, and I went snowboarding for a month and just reconnected with nature. And like, I needed to move. I needed to sweat and breathe and be in nature, or else I just thought, you know, it was going to be the end of my life. And so that's what I did. And then a great blessing came. I know it's a lot, but there's so many little details to the story. So while I was there, my sister, who was helping me with my career and managing me at the time, she calls me on the phone. She says, you know, you received a check for your video sales, your international video sales. And I opened it, and you're selling a lot of videos overseas. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, you have a check here for $110,000. So in 1993, like, that's a lot of money for selling a workout video.
Yeah.
Especially for international sales. Well, what turns out that MTV made a mistake. They added an extra zero to my check. They made a $100,000 check mistake. And because they sent it in the mail, legally, they're not allowed to take it back.
Wow.
And so that kind of, you know, it was exciting. I lost all my money. I lost like $350,000. I was broke. And that money gave me a way to get back into the business. And then I started my own business with my family and my friends.
Yeah.
And that would go on for like 5 years.
We have so much to discuss. I want to just go back to this gentleman. You said how upset you were. Were you upset that you gave in because you felt vulnerable because he was helping you?
No, well, I was angry because I was betrayed and I was lied to.
Sure.
You know, and the brainwashing and the manipulation. I didn't understand what was happening at the time. I actually believed that this information, for any of your listeners, if you've gone down the rabbit hole of the Illuminati and the New World Order and the Knights Templar and these secret societies that have been around for a very, very long time, and you have gone down the rabbit hole of looking at the banking system and the food industry and media and all of these corporations that, you know, run the world, it's a very, very dark place. You know, and only somebody who has done that research, that has gone down that rabbit hole, will understand that. And when you talk about it to other people, because it's information that has been kept in the dark, the response that you will get from somebody who's not aware of that information potentially is going to be a lot of resistance, a lot of judgment, and so on and so forth. So that information I was carrying around with me at the same time while all of this was going on. So I was in shock and disbelief that these dark things were actually happening on the planet. I mean, I was doing the research and reading the books and watching so many hours and hours of videos and things like that when the internet didn't even exist. So the combination of feeling the overwhelming pressure and responsibility to let my family know, let my friends know, like, how do I share this information with the world? But I just lost my job and I don't have any money. I don't have a place to live. I don't have a car. I don't have anything. It was like all taken away from me. So that was just a lot of energy to process at a very young age. Not to mention being molested at the same time. So you're talking about sexual abuse, losing your job, becoming aware of these dark things on the planet all at the same time. It was, I'm surprised I'm not alive. I'm alive, honestly.
Yeah, you're alive in a different way now because you turned everything around, and we have so much to discuss. As far as Illuminati, you know, for people who aren't familiar with it, they talk about like Beyonce's part of it, Eminem, Jay-Z, you know, and I've researched a little bit of it, and I don't tap into that. So I just think positive. So
I get it.
So we're going to get into Eric's lifestyle now. We're going to get into COVID, and he came into the homecoming for the real world. So I just want to do a quick disclosure, and I'm just being responsible as a host. I want to mention that Eric has been practicing his lifestyle for over 30 years and more. So if you hear anything in this interview that piques your interest, please consult your physician, or if you'd like to work with Eric, please feel free to head over and check him out at IamEricNies.com. I just want to give that disclosure because we're going to be getting into heavy stuff. So let's start with last year, COVID, the real world. It's considered the original social experiment. So Eric Nies, I watched him. It was real world in New York City here. You had Heather, you had a beautiful girl from the South, you had Eric, a very handsome looking man, you had a gay man. So we were all introduced to this, and it was really, really cool. A rocker, and then you had Kevin. Who's Kevin? Kevin. So we were introduced to racism, to just a whole bunch of topics that you're like, whoa, I can't believe we're like discussing this and they're airing this. But it woke us up. So
Mm-hmm.
you weren't able to participate because you got a little virus called the COVID. So tell us about
Yep.
your experience and what you did after when you were released to go home.
Yeah, so the morning that I woke up, I was the first one to be interviewed for the shoot, and as I was on set to do my first interview, they did tests, and it came up 3 times that I was positive for COVID, and so they sent me back to my hotel room, and I was in my hotel room for the whole shoot. But it was another eye-opening and amazing experience to be able to sit with that virus in that way in the hotel room. And immediately, so I have protocols that I follow in my life. You know, I have a lifestyle that I stick to. It's my church, it's my temple, it's my pagoda, it's my way of life. And so I treat this body like a temple. And when I found out that I had COVID, I thought, okay, there's definitely a bigger purpose. There's a bigger reason for all of this. And so I'm going to observe it. And so that's what I did. So for 2 weeks, I observed what felt like some type of metal type spider spirit energy that was crawling around in my body. I could feel it in my ankle and then come up into my knee and then move around in my body. It was, affecting my sense of smell and taste, my hearing. I mean, it was like looking for a way to get in. It was like it was studying me. It wanted to understand how I operated, how I function, and was looking for a way to get in. And I was observing my immune system. I was observing my immune system observing this virus.
Sure.
And what I was realizing while I was going through the process is that my immune system was adjusting to deal with it. And so I immediately went on a fast. So I went on a cleanse, and I was just drinking juices every day. I started doing breath work and cold plunges. They were bringing in bags and bags of ice because I didn't have access to a sauna. If I was at home and I had access to a sauna, I would immediately have gone into a sauna. I would have filled up my body with all the proper nutrients to attack the virus and then heat my body up. Because my teacher years ago, when I was in my late 20s, taught me how to fight a virus by creating your own fever by going into a sauna. So that's what happens, right? You get sick, and the reason why we get a fever is because your body heats up to kill whatever the virus is that's in your body. So you can induce and create your own fever by going into the sauna. And so I've used that for years and years and years, helping people to kick flus and colds and all kinds of different stuff. You load up on garlic and vitamin C and zinc and different minerals and all these different nutrients, and then you go into the sauna as long as you can. And because you heat your body up, your blood pushes all of those nutrients through your system, and it attacks the virus. But I couldn't do that, so I was stuck with trying to figure out how to manage this virus without taking any medicine from big pharma, which I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of big pharma. So what was really cool is that when I was finally able to leave and get back home, I had access to what's called combo frog medicine. So in the jungles of Peru, there's a really cute green tree frog that excretes a poison, and they scrape the excretion off of the back of the frog. Nothing is there is no harm that is done to the frog. They actually, when the shamans go into the jungle, they call out to the frog, and the spirit of the frog comes to the shaman because they communicate with the spirit of the frog, and the frog knows that these humans are using its secretion to assist them in their own healing and their own evolution. So there's a relationship, and shamanism is all about a relationship of energies. There's an honoring. So they do a ceremony, they give an offering, and then the frog gives its offering. So I facilitated myself in the combo ceremony, and on my second purge, which means I was vomiting, I literally visually watched the spirit of COVID leave my body, and I saw it in the bucket, and I instantly felt better.
Explain to our audience what you saw, please.
It looked like a very fragmented, or do you know who Dr. Emoto is?
No, I'm not familiar. No.
Yeah, so Dr. Emoto has a book that came out called Messages in Water. Okay. And what he did is he showed how water is affected by different frequencies, like frequencies of hate and judgment and frequency of love. And so he froze, he used Petri dishes and froze the water, and he put words on the Petri dishes, some Petri dishes with positive words and some with negative. And the ones with positive created these beautiful snow crystals, perfect sacred geometrical crystals of water. And the ones with the negative words, they were deformed. So this looked like a demon, like a dark, evil face, but it was all morphed and distorted. Like it was like a darker, negative energy.
So did you feel when the COVID started, did you feel a shift in the universe? Because I've had a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of shifts that have been happening for a while now, but they're getting much stronger now. You know, there's this balance that the universe, because it's really easy to kind of look at, right? Like in our bodies are constantly adjusting to stay in homeostasis, to find a balance, right? We live on a planet of duality. The earth that we live on has negative energy and positive energy, female energy, masculine energy. And so there's a spiritual battle. There's a spiritual war that is going on in the spirit world, but in the physical, there's a war that's happening. I mean, we want to call it a war, however you want to look at it, but there's a battle going on inside of all of us at the physical level, the emotional, psychological, and spiritual. But that battle is very simply can be looked at and understood as you have negative and positive finding a balance between each other always. And so, right, you have free radicals in your body and you have antioxidants in your body. If you're not putting a lot of antioxidants in your body, the free radicals are going to expand inside of the body. So, you know, we have to, finding the middle lane, finding a balance on the planet of duality is what this is all about. Like, how do we find balance here? How do we find the middle lane? Because you have a choice. You could either choose to go down the road of love, or you could choose to go down the road of fear and everything that comes with that. And so the great sages, the great masters, and the ascended masters of our time, this is what they figured out. This is what they understood and they remember. And that's why their names have lasted throughout the ages, because they left behind instructions for us.
Yeah, you spoke about that in our pre-interview, and I was very interested in learning more about that. So can you elaborate on that topic, please? And you talk about how people, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but you talk about how the it's a good time to be alive right now, and the people who are choosing to come here. So please tell us about that.
Oh, this is the greatest moment in the history of the universe, especially of this planet, because the impact that this little planet is going to have on the rest of the universe, with my experiences and what I've personally gone through and what I have observed and seen and has been shared with me through my teachers and my meditation and my, my medicine journeys. This is the greatest moment of human history because of the ascension process that we're in and the potential of humanity, the potential of a soul on this planet of duality, right? So we're basically right now we're on a slave planet. The dark forces, the darker energies, and the people that are controlling the planet right now they use fear, they manipulate, and they brainwash, and they convince you to, in all these different ways, convince you to do what they want you to do. That's why you're seeing the whole world right now protesting about information that is being projected at them and forced upon them. So basically, if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to take your freedoms away. We're going to take all of these things that you love to do. We're going to take them away from you. Oh, you like to go to the movies? Nah, you can't go to the movies now. Oh, you want to go shopping? Yeah, you can't shop anymore. Oh, you want to go to a football game? Nah, you can't go anymore, because if you don't do what we tell you to do, you can't enjoy those luxuries, right? And so, without putting labels on things, talking about a virus or this or that, look, there's thousands of things that can kill you.
Right.
That's known. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand it. You can die from the common cold. You can die from a flu. You can die by getting hit by a car. You can die from being stung by a bee.
What do you think of this Omicron that's going on now? What is that about? And why are they, what's happening?
It's not going to stop. It's going to be one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. What they have done is they have crossed over the threshold where now, at any moment, they can create something new to use as a tactic of fear to brainwash and control you. And so the significance of this conversation now and what I talk about and the energies that I focus on, I could sit here and we could talk about that stuff all day long.
Right.
But what I'm interested in and what I want to talk about is the liberation of the soul. How do we liberate ourselves from this controlling, fear-based, manipulative system that has been in place for a long time? And let's talk about, why is it there? Who's asking why? So you have a number of people that are just following orders, and then you have other people who have attained more information than those other people, and they have a different perspective. They have a different view. So we're being challenged right now as human beings to not judge each other, to be open, to open the heart and open the mind to receive information, receive guidance, receive understanding, receive wisdom from people who have gone through the process of liberating the soul from generations of ancestral lineage behavior programs that have been passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. The time that we're in right now, the ascension process, this is what it looks like. We are in a third dimensional plane.
Yeah.
This is third dimensional Earth. Where we're moving, where we're evolving to, is through the fourth dimension into the fifth dimension. Well, in the fifth dimension, fear does not exist. So, as the human body transitions through the fourth into the fifth, it has to go through fundamental changes, molecular changes within the body to be able to sustain itself in a higher frequency, a higher vibration. Fifth dimension. Well, what doesn't exist in the fifth dimension is fear and judgment and everything that comes along with that: guilt, shame, resentment, insecurity, anxiety, depression. All of those things do not exist in the fifth dimension. So it's the greatest time in the history of humanity, but it's also the most challenging.
Sure.
Big challenges, a ton of adversity that we have to overcome. And so when I was talking earlier about the ascended masters and these great sages whose names have lasted throughout the ages, like Buddha and Jesus and Kuan Yin and these other, these ascended masters, what they realized was that if they observe themselves objectively, if they observed the feelings and the sensations and the emotion that was suppressed in their bodies, if they observed it objectively, without judgment, without attachment, middle lane, the word equanimity, and to live equanimously, calm in the eye of the storm, calm in the chaos of the mind. Okay? And they realized that if they sat quietly in meditation and just observed themselves objectively, that those suppressed emotions that come from the traumas in their life and the programs that were passed down from one generation to the next, if you objectively observe them equanimously, then they will just rise out of the body and go back into the ethers and release you from your own suffering. That's what this is all about. And there are many ancient souls that are here on the planet now that have agreed and have chosen to do this work. Right. And this is what I've been doing for many years, and it's what has brought me to plant medicines like ayahuasca and mushrooms and iboga and peyote. These medicines that have been around for thousands of years are here to assist humanity in the ascension process to liberate the soul from its own suffering so that we can all collectively evolve to and through the ascension process and see the birth and the awakening of a star kingdom.
So when you talk about the third dimension, fourth and fifth, in our lifetimes, do we go into those dimensions?
We're always in them.
So for example, fifth dimension.
There's no separation. There's no separation.
Okay. I just want to understand, because I know that I'm not in the third because that's not the way I think, but will I ever get to the fifth where I don't have the anxiety and the fears? If somebody's watching, and they're saying, oh, well, I think I'm stuck in the fourth right now, or.
Yeah. Well, the more that you release the suppressed emotion from the traumas of this life and your past lives, and you work on the lineage, healing the lineage, the lighter you're going to feel in your body, and then you're not going to be triggered by third dimensional energies that are being projected at you from other people. See, this is what happens in our lives, right? We interact with each other. It happens. The best example of it is in your immediate family. what your mom and your dad, your brothers and sisters, right? Because that's where the programs are within the family. That's why getting along with family can be a great challenge, because the souls in that family agreed to come together to assist each other in evolving. But you're not going to learn this in school. You're not going to learn this in the matrix system, because the whole matrix system is designed to distract you from what I'm talking about. They're not stupid.
Right.
Obviously, they're controlling the world. They control the entire monetary system. There's a global currency, the World Bank, that is put in place to control everything. You know,
when
so
you say that,
you have to ask the question: why did they create it? Why is it there? Who created it? Right?
When you mean
Who does
they,
that?
right? In case somebody's watching and they don't understand this, because it is very hard to understand if you're not in it. And just like you say, there could be a block when somebody's trying to help you learn and grow. So when you're saying they, who is they?
Well, there's a number of families, of very, very wealthy families, who you know, are running and controlling the banking system. You know, the biggest names that most people are aware of are the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. I mean, if you want to take the time and you want to do the research and you want to look at the history of these families and what they do and who they work with and what do they control, then you'll have a better understanding, you know, of what's happening. But most people don't do that.
I found this on the web for these families and what they do and who they work with and what do they control.
This whole interview has been so crazy.
Check it out.
I don't even think I'm going to edit anything, because this is...
That is so funny.
I'm telling you, I was telling Eric, this is insane. I'm not editing anything out. I was telling Eric yesterday, I was watching our 49-minute pre-interview, and he was talking, and you can hear somebody in the background. And I seriously felt my grandmother standing right next to me, because we were talking about ancestry, and I felt him. I smelt my father, and I literally had to leave the room. I was so scared. Like, not that I just wasn't in the mood because I wanted to go to bed. So this happens with people like Eric because of the energies that are with him. I'm freaking out.
And you know, and I want to clarify for the audience, because it's really important, right? When you're communicating with people and you're sharing new information. Yeah. You know, it's a lot of information, you know, and it's a lot to understand and to grasp. But the reality of this is when I was 22 years old, I didn't know anything about this. Right? I was a kid. I grew up in New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. I was an athlete, and all I really cared about was, you know, having fun and playing sports and enjoying my life. And then this person walked into my life and shared all of this information. Now, at that time, I could have just walked away from it, but there was something inside of me that was interested. It sparked something inside of me. And my whole life, I've been kind of that way. You know, I'm very curious. I actually carried Curious George around with me for a long time when I was a child. And I've always been that person to ask why. So when I got into the entertainment industry and things started happening to me in the entertainment industry, where I would go to MTV to try to do other things, they didn't care what I had to say or what I wanted to do. They only cared about their agenda and what they wanted to do. And so I didn't feel like I was in an honorable relationship. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the way that it felt inside. So either I could betray my feelings or I could honor my feelings and say something, do something, ask a question, not just go along with what they were asking me to do, because they weren't honoring me. And that's what we're seeing right now in the world stage with this virus.
Yeah.
You know, there's people who have come out, like there's a guy, an NBA player who didn't want to get the vaccine, and they said, well, if you don't want to get the vaccine, you can't play in the NBA. And he was like, whoa, well, that's my life, that's my job, that's my money, blah, blah, blah. And he decided that he betrayed himself, his feeling, for the money, for the job. And so this is where we're all being confronted right now. What's really important to you? What is really
That's
important
right.
to you? Is it your heart? Is it your soul? Is it the inner child that lives within you? Are you honoring yourself and what you truly feel? Or are you being manipulated to follow somebody else's order, somebody else's idea, somebody else's plan, somebody else's agenda? However you want to spin it, you're either creating your own life or you're following somebody else's.
And it's a shame of that, you can't even have a voice and speak like this because we have the ridiculous cancel culture. Well, people are just going to turn this off and be like, oh, he's not, she's not,
Yep.
but
Oh
you
yeah,
can't
and
even.
I'm right. I get it, and I'm dangerous. Right now, I'm a threat to society.
Yeah.
But here's the reality of it. You can't say that to me because the information that I carry and the lifestyle that I live actually saves people from this. It protects people from this.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that can protect you from this virus is a healthy and strong immune system. I got the virus and I dealt with it personally. I didn't take their medication. I'm not interested in what they're serving. I'm interested in the medicine that this earth provides for me in its natural state. And all of these medicines that have been around for thousands of years. I have a shaman friend of mine who's in his 70s. He's considered one of the most powerful shamans in the world. And they already are aware of two plants in the jungles of the Amazon. One will remove COVID, and the other one will remove the spirit of the vaccine from your body. And these people have assisted me in saving my life. I'm not interested in entertaining medicine from a group of people who I know personally poison our water and poison our food. I lived with a Vietnamese grandmaster, and I watched people with stage 5 cancer come in and out of our home, and he healed them. I watched people heal from cancer, from strokes and diabetes and all kinds of diseases with herbs and food and natural medicine. And so it's the challenge is for the people that are listening to this that don't carry this information, you got to watch yourselves and how you judge me and how I live my life, what I choose to do with my life. I'm not going to judge you. If you want to go take their medicine and do all of those things, God bless you. I pray for you. I honor you, and I accept you for making that choice. Freedom, free will.
Yeah.
And so that's what we have on this planet, right? So we're on the planet of duality, but we also are on the planet of free will. You have a choice to do whatever it is that you want. Those are natural laws of this planet. There are natural laws within the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom and the human kingdom and the mineral kingdom. These are natural laws that cannot be changed. All right. So if we're going to talk about air, fire, water, and earth, those 4 elements have natural laws, and they have a natural relationship between each other. The way that they interact with each other is a natural law, You cannot manipulate that.
Right.
And that's what we are. You and me and everybody who's listening is made up of, at the physical level, those 4 elements. So all of us are governed by those natural laws with each other. But then the mind gets involved. So what information are you carrying? What information am I carrying? What's my understanding and what's your understanding? And can we come together equanimously to accept and love one another and meet each other where we're at? This is what is going to be necessary over the next 30 years for us to collectively and consciously evolve and ascend to the Star Kingdom.
Join us next week as we continue our interview with Eric. We learn about his juicing regimen and his future projects. This episode is sponsored by Preferred Health Magazine.
Hi, I'm Angelina Cappiello, publisher and editor-in-chief of Preferred Health Magazine. PHM hosts interviews with today's top physicians, experts in the healthcare industry, and some of today's most beloved celebrities. So head on over to www.preferredhealthmagazine.com today to receive your free digital subscription. And be sure to catch me on our new podcast, Talking Points with Preferred Health Magazine, streaming now on Spotify and YouTube.
Thank you for tuning in to Making a Difference. I'm your host, Melissa Billy Clark. If you'd like to learn more about our show, please visit our website at melissabillyclarkshow.com. If you'd like to sponsor or be a guest, email melissa@melissaclarkshow.com. Let's make a difference together.